right, we're in. So, hello to everybody for coming in, for joining us this evening for the March Scotch Malt Whisky Society Outturn. Hello everyone, welcome New Year for me. This is kind of my first time sort of coming back in the shop here. But I understand the whiskey tastings were in good hands with Lionel and importantly Craig as well. So we're back at it, and we've got our folks here with the Outturn. So this month, up your whiskey game is the theme. And so we've got sort of very similar to what we typically have with the SMWS, 7 unique distilleries that are maybe a little bit different, something you don't typically see from different independent bottlers that you might otherwise be familiar with. So that's kind of the gimmick for this month. And it looks really interesting. So I will say, typically, with these events, when we host them here, you can expect a profound amount of ignorance from myself. and
I filled that gap. I filled that gap.
And this month, if that ignorance from me has really excited you in the past, tonight is going to be real special because I know almost nothing about any of these whiskeys. I haven't looked at them whatsoever. I know absolutely nothing. So when we go through these for the first time together, we're all on the same page as always. So I think I guess all that being said, let's give it a go. And I would encourage for those of you who are at home and you have these poured already first, I would say just give a quick nose to each of the 7 whiskeys right off the top, just so you can have a chance to nose each of these with a fresh sort of sense of smell. So and you don't have to get into it. You don't have to get deep into it. Just a quick first impression.
Will that prime our sinuses?
Yes. This is a scientific term. It will prime your sinus, yes. Do you get a quick sense? I think a lot of times too, that last one is really interesting.
Jeez.
A lot of times, you'll spend 15 minutes sort of huffing on one whiskey, and it can really sort of bulldoze your sense of smell. I think when you just give a quick once over to each one, it can be really nice.
There are several on this side that I'm very excited for. One smelled like maple syrup, and I'm extremely pleased.
Nice, nice. So I want to say a quick thanks to Ask Photo Studios. They're helping us out with the stream this evening with technological things. So thanks to them. And let's go ahead. Are you in the chat there? Can you see what's going on there?
Definitely. Yeah, many words being said.
Are people saying things? What am I missing?
They're just commenting on your mustache.
Fuck. I mean,
getting a little more raw here at Keg and Cork than usual. Usually Lionel swears after he's had whiskey.
Usually halfway through. Have I
no, it's like one whiskey and he's dropping F-bombs.
Okay,
so
we're roughly in the ballpark here. I'm just going to try and pull up the chat here so I can also engage with you folks. But it's been a while. The virtual tastings are sort of clipping along. There's been more sort of happening in the city. I understand there was a Cavalan tasting that happened somewhat recently. High Coast
last week.
Was that last week?
Yep.
That happened, so that was kind of cool too. It's kind of nice that AGLC has sort of played ball and allowed stores to do this tasting concept. I hope we can continue it. Because I think for a lot of people, even when this tasting room, when we're able to open it back up again and do tasting events, I expect there's going to be probably 20 or 30% of people who are going to want to still do the sort of have a tasting to go sort of thing. So, because I know myself, were I a consumer, that's the kind of thing I would be into as well. So, so yeah, before we get kicked off here, I'm just gonna see if I can pull up this chat, and we'll get going.
Zara says hi.
Oh, Zara, hello.
Zara says hi. Hi, Zara.
Hopefully I got your name correctly.
Yeah.
Well, so how many have we got in the room right now?
21.
Oh my God, 21. Yeah. Here I am talking as if, and I know there's some people watching this on their televisions. So God bless you. Thank you for that.
I'm eager.
Yeah, I'm kind of eager too. I feel like the old guy.
If you want, I can just handle this.
Yeah,
well,
I'll just get right out of here, and then.
No, I mean the chat. I'll do the chat. You can.
Oh yeah, sure. I just want to like get it somehow. Maybe I'll just let's kick off.
Let's do one at least.
Let's do this. So we'll start off with the first whiskey, hilariously named Enriched Geranium. So let's give that one a go. Whiskey number 1.
This is like no geranium I've ever smelled.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever smelled a geranium. If I'm honest.
Yeah, I don't even know if I know what a geranium is, but.
So extremely light, like really light on the nose.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do our notes say in our book? Did they give any kind of lead-ins to?
Like I want to the notes. We'll get to those. Just try the whiskey first. See what you.
Senpai says try the whiskey first.
Yeah. That's my recommendation. Oh, there's the chat.
So I can't pick out much. Like it just smells light. It smells floral.
There's definitely a floral component to that for sure.
It smells like a Sharpie.
There's do you find like a
there's like a felt tip pen
solventy sort of component to that?
Maybe there's something else there too. It's familiar, but I can't really indicate as to what it might be.
I get a floral note. Like there's a vanilla. There's definitely a cask component to that, like a bourbon cask component. I would say a fresh bourbon cask. It's not in your face like a first fill or anything like that, but
it's very subdued.
There's definitely like a sort of vanilla, sort of fruity characteristic that you get from kind of like a refill bourbon cask. You'll see that sometimes. So
that's very similar to that Auchentoshan that we have. I guess that's the one kind of main refill that I can kind of go back to.
Yeah.
The 23-year-old.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's very much like
a
this.
Refill hogshead, like a very spirit-driven sort of.
Yeah. And it's exceptional.
Lars is already excited to know what the number of this bottling is. We're not telling you yet. What we're going to do, because I'm not sure how Lionel did it before, but what we'll do is we'll try the whole 7. We'll try all 7 of them. And then after you've had all 7 and had a chance to sort of develop your own feelings about each of them, then we'll let you know what the bottling numbers and price and all that stuff is.
Shall we try this?
But yeah, the whole idea is, I think, just to try the whiskeys first and see what you think, without knowing sort of what distillery they came from or what the hype is behind them or anything like that. So give this first bad boy a go. Enriched Geranium. Keep going. I'm getting notes from the side. This is very new to me, so this is very exciting. Rochelle says cheap 90s perfume. So that's I wouldn't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, we did a new mic on this side. All right.
Yes.
Stay there. All right.
So it's much more robust in flavor than the smell would lead you to believe. So it's, again, like Dave said, it's very vanilla. I get like a hint of those. It's almost like a vanilla wafer cookie to me.
Oh yeah, okay, like those like waffle,
like
crisscrossy.
Yeah,
yeah.
They're awful for you and they cause diabetes, but they taste so good.
Instant diabetes.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people saying Adriana says talc or baby powder. I get that there's like a kind of a soapy sort of. We're in the universe of like these sort of like, sort of like bargain
Like
bargain perfumes. Yeah.
So like the London drugs counter.
Yeah, like London drugs
or Shoppers Drug Marts.
Yeah.
It's not like I buy perfume, so I don't really know.
Yeah,
Where does one go for bargain perfume?
Yeah. But it does have that sort of. There is like a soapy sort of component to that. Yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
But it's also balanced out with like that. I just get that there's like a vanilla quality to it that's just sort of. It's not overbearing, but it's just kind of on top of all of that. Just sort of gracing on top of it.
Ooh, gracing, nice. I like that.
A bit. I mean, it might be like a combination of like that sort of vanilla. Like sweetness isn't really a smell, but sort of vanilla sweetness with a bit of like an herbal kind of quality as well.
Did you taste it yet?
I haven't tasted it yet. No, I'm still nosing it. I really haven't actually drank a whiskey in 2 months, so this is I'm still sort of nerding out.
Somehow you haven't had all of these. Yes,
incredibly.
Lars said he didn't pick up his samples yet.
Oh my God, Lars.
That's too bad.
I feel bad, and my apologies too as well. I mean, anyone watching the stream, I expect probably already has their samples, but we were kind of a bit crunched for time, and I owe great thanks to Craig for helping out with getting the samples poured and all that stuff. But we just wanted to make sure that we actually did the Outturn on Friday today, and so yeah. So apologies about the sort of short time frame, but thank you to all who are joining us tonight to be part of it. All right, let's give this a taste. Has anyone examined the legs of this yet? Divined anything important from those?
I think lots of folks just try to.
Yeah, very like oily spirit. It looks like really sort of beads sort of hanging on top of that rim. What that means, I don't know.
You were the Van Gogh whiskey tasters.
I don't accept that. But let's give it a taste.
Look at the gorgeous interplay of legs and oil.
Yes,
truly is a sunset on it.
That's nice.
Do you get the vanilla, like wafery things that I'm
for
kind
sure
of referring
on the palate,
to?
Yeah. It's got a real freshness, almost like a tart crispness to it.
There is a crispness to it. This would be almost like a session whiskey for these guys. Like it's very easy to drink.
Yeah, this is one of these things where I don't really, myself personally, I'm not very good at. I don't really believe that things have a proper sequence. I think a lot of times, and as some of you who have attended some of the tastings, when we just do things in a random order, that's kind of fun. But this is kind of nice to have as a first whiskey because it's just so fresh, sort of crisp, and just kind of like snappy type of on the palate. It's really nice. And this is a sort of like, for me, sort of like a pre-meal type whiskey that just sort of gets the salivary glands pumping a little bit, and it's got a really nice sort of leaves the palate really clean. Doesn't have a super long sort of drawn out finish that weighs your palate down. You know what I mean? It's pretty kind of
sessionable.
It's I don't want to call it basic, but it's got sort of that just it's very concentrated for that note that it is, and it sort of hits your palate and bang and it's off. So
No, that's quite the way to describe it. That's I would say bang on. I'm gonna add a bit of water.
Yeah, you can add a bit of water to that.
Let's see what happens.
Adriana says it's wafer thin. And I can see that. I can see that perspective. Like it's definitely, in terms of body, it's quite light and it's quite high. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you'll get whiskeys that are quite oily, have a really long finish, and they'll be really sort of have a lot of what we say as mouthfeel, a real round and full flavor. This is not like that. Like it's pretty sharp, pretty angular, and it's quite sort of snappy. Quite.
When you say high, what what does that refer to?
I think I guess that's weird. I like.
Because as a
Thanks for pointing that out.
as a noob and a layperson, I'm
fair
just
point, yeah.
this is all just a geyser of information that I must.
I guess when it comes to the sense of smell and the sense of taste, we're always talking about sort of everything is a metaphor because it's very difficult to convey, outside of like very specific, like coconut or things like that. Okay, we can have a discussion about that, and we'll probably disagree at some point. But for me, like I think sometimes you'll have very sort of high what I would call high flavors or aromas, which are sort of maybe more delicate, and then sort of low, sort of what you would almost say like base, sort of like
dense.
Yeah,
deep,
where you
like
thicker. So like you think like
gravy.
Yeah. So if you again, we're talking about metaphors. So like
gravy's not a metaphor. Gravy is life.
But if this was a Thanksgiving dinner, high would be the cranberry sauce, and low would be the gravy. Yeah. So or if we were talking about like an orchestra, high would be the oboe and low would be
the lobo.
The
yes.
The tuba. So or
no, the lobo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the lobo. That's pretty good. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the high. This is the cranberry sauce of the Thanksgiving dinner, in my estimation. But it's we're talking about the sense of taste and the sense of smell. So we're totally fine to disagree about this. Oh, okay, all right. This is going on there. Okay.
So just with some water added, I do really see what you mean. I find this is brightened up quite a bit. It's not like it was a heavy whiskey before, but it's becoming kind of lighter on the palate.
Yeah.
Very bright. You can almost say it's pretty. That's a ridiculous word, but it is an attractive whiskey to my face.
Yeah. High. Oh, okay. So we have some feelings in the chat about high and low. Gregory's saying high would be the piccolo. That's fair too. I think we could be here. We'll be here all night.
Greg, next time you're in, bring me your piccolo.
Yeah.
Play us a tune. We'll get you some whiskey.
But yeah, I mean, what I mean is that it's just it's very sort of volatile. It's very.
This whiskey?
Yeah. This one in particular, just very.
So
very
when you
delicate,
say volatile, you just mean lots coming off it?
Yeah, I think lots coming off of it, but it's just it's light, it's airy, it's like a cloud. You know what I mean? Yeah,
a cloud of flavor. And you said like metaphors. There we go.
Tonight is going to be metaphor night, so let's get ready.
I like it. I like it very much.
And no one is watching the stream anymore. So.
Yeah, 0 people. So now we can just drink until we're closed.
It's funny because when we did the Outturns and this room was full of people, I did my spiel, but it was there was a lot of sort of conversation and people giving their own views on these things. This is kind of a little bit different because we're just here sort of
just 2 imbeciles in a room,
for lack of a better way of putting it, 2 imbeciles in a room. So anyone who's here and taking part in this, I really appreciate you being here, because obviously this past 12 months has been a little bit different. So for those of you who are still in on the SMWS tasting, this really means a lot. It means a lot to us here. So has anyone cut that, other than Craig? Anyone else in the streaming right now cut that down with water? Any sort of feelings about that? Anyone sort of oh, hey Laurel, how's it going? Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining us as always. Anyone cut this one down? I almost don't want to cut this down with water because it's just so. But you had good experience. You felt it was a good thing.
Yeah, I liked it. More vanilla, more perfumey. more volatile, as
Mm.
you might say.
Mm.
More things come to the nose and the tongue.
You know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try everything first and then water it down. It's just so it's so nice. So nice. A little bit of nuttiness too. Okay, so that's Enriched Geranium, the first whiskey that we have tonight of the Outturn. Before we say too much or anything about that, I propose we go on to whiskey number 2, a curiosity of flavors. So let's give that a nose and a taste. Oh goodness, whew.
This is lovely. This has got some, almost like some waxy notes to it.
Waxy, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Like there's a varnish or a lacquer.
It's a sort of study in a young whiskey versus an old whiskey. You know, that first whiskey that we had, sort of just very bright and expressive, and this one sort of is starting to pick up some of those characteristics that you expect out of an older single malt. A little bit solventy, those sort of like polished furniture notes.
Yep.
But also it's like dried. There's a fruity sort of undertone as well as there too, like a dry sort of dried fruit, sort of like dried apricots.
I just get red fruit. I don't get
Red
like a
fruit?
stone fruit
No?
kind of thing. Like maybe some berries or some
Berries. What type of berry did you?
a goji berry.
Goji.
I don't know.
I shouldn't laugh. I don't have a frame of reference for that, but that might be very.
Well,
fair.
no, maybe more cherry. So that's not a berry. But it's not like bold cherry. It's like a freshly lacquered cherry.
A furniture polished cherry. We have Atticus North saying, "I love the nose." That's technical for yummy. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, we're gonna. Amazingly, we're paid here tonight to just sort of talk shit about these whiskeys.
It is a dream come true.
And we're having fun with this. But yeah, I mean, sometimes to get into these fine grained things like boysenberries.
Nothing too pretentious. I hope.
If that's what it means to you, then that's great. But everyone, that's one of the funny things about when you smell and taste things. Everyone sort of has a different sort of repertoire of what they draw on when you give a tasting note or a nosing note or what your sort of impression is. So that's one of the things that's sort of difficult about this virtual style of doing these things, because like when we're seated down and we do seated tastings, you'll have people offer notes like trout in a trash can, and that's just, what do you say about that? That's just a beautiful thing. And you have people that are like, yeah, trout in a trash can. So we're missing that. I'm hoping that you guys are doing it at home, sort of just embracing your sense of smell, and taking it where it takes you, because that's ultimately what this is all about, I think.
Would you indicate any kind of tobacco on the nose?
Yeah, there's some people saying tobacco here. Tim in the chat saying tobacco.
I don't really know what tobacco smells like. I mean, I don't smoke. I don't chew. I don't smoke pipe tobacco.
Tobacco is an interesting note, because it's almost like, in a sense, it's almost kind of like berries, where you almost have to drill down deeper into like what type of tobacco is this? Is this like a cigar type tobacco? Is this, what is this? For me, maybe there's a very sort of subtle component of that. But whenever you're nosing something, you're going to have, it's like perfume. It's like you're going to have a top note.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have some mid notes, and you're going to have some stuff that's very down below. So for me, like the tobacco it's a very subtle component of this. But yeah, I would say it's that makes sense. I can see how someone would sort of propose that. Yeah.
As this opens up, I'm getting kind of some more, almost like a toffee kind of note. And folks have said it here in the chat, and yeah, I'm totally getting that now after they say it.
Yeah, there's like, again, sweet isn't a smell, but the smell of sweet things. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, let's taste this. I'm sure
This is more thin on the palate than the first one.
you find it lighter.
Yeah,
It's
not as oily.
I'm almost kind of the oiliness is one thing, but I find the finish goes a bit longer on this.
definitely. But if we're just talking consistency on the tongue, this to me, I'm not going to say watery,
Yeah.
but I find the first one to be more dense or viscous,
Okay.
whereas this one I find it just kind of washes over your tongue
Yeah. Okay.
with a longer finish
That's fair.
instead of lingering or kind of like.
I mean, I'll say this, like on the second whiskey, there's a heat to it that the first one doesn't have. Like in terms of just like that sort of like, yeah, where I think the first one is sort of the first thing that hits your palate is kind of like sweetness, whereas this one it's a bit more sort of like assertive.
It's very good, and I love the finish. Maybe that's the tobacco I'm tasting, kind of like that floral berry.
You'll never know.
Yeah, I got to start smoking the pipe or something.
But it's yeah, and you know what? There's no right or wrong answer to this, except that Craig is wrong and I'm right. But aside from all that, no. But I mean, you know, everyone's going to have their own sort of impression of what it is. But yeah, this one I find is to me anyway, is fuller. A bit more of that sort of earthy, kind of musty characteristic that first one doesn't have. Like the Enriched Geranium is very sort of crisp and sharp and vanilla-y. The second whiskey is a little bit more sort of like closer to the earth, a bit more earthy soil like. That's my feeling anyway. But
I understand the mustiness.
Yeah,
sure.
There's something there, like kind of.
There's like a wisdom in this whiskey.
It's a little funky, yeah.
Like it's seen some time.
Yeah,
you could say.
Some people saying, okay, so if we sort of drill down on this pipe tobacco, that's interesting. Even within pipe tobacco too, there's all sorts of. Are we talking about Cavendish? Are we talking about Latakia? Are we talking about it's kind of a beautiful. Sort of thing. What I love is to just fill this tasting room with if everyone just brings a pipe. One day anyway.
Have you smoked pipe?
Anyway, I do.
Cigar?
Yes, I do enjoy cigars. I do enjoy pipes every now and then. Yeah, I mean, it's the interesting things about with pipes and cigars is that the flavor profile tends to be a bit more like when it's good, tends to be a bit more sort of the bandwidth is a bit narrower. Whereas with whiskeys, I mean, we can try 7 whiskeys tonight and we'll have 7 radically different whiskeys.
Totally.
It's very uncommon when you're smoking really great cigars to have 7 wildly different cigars. Like they'll all be sort of, this is my experience anyway. We'll see. Probably there's people already in the chat saying, Dave, you're crazy. But that's kind of one of those nice things when you can sort of balance that sort of narrow bandwidth of excellent cigars with the wide bandwidth of really excellent whiskeys. That's where that real sort of ecstasy of that combination comes from. But
so I'm being told I have to smoke a cigar.
I have
no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to tobacco.
One of these days. But
if you guys want to start a GoFundMe for a pipe for me, want to crowdfund some tobacco
after the stream is over, we'll have
we'll start the super chats.
You just want to,
donate.
Just bring cash, no. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so
and I'll start. And it's going to be radical.
We'll go to let's clip along here. Does anyone actually before we real quick move on? Does anyone have any other thoughts or sort of impressions about whiskey number 2 they want to share that we can sort of talk about? Some people saying, okay, can't find tobacco flavor if you haven't smoked a pipe or a cigar. Craig has some research to do.
Yeah, that's a slight my way.
That's a little personal, but okay. Anyway, so okay, let's go on to dram number 3, which is Funky Old Bodega, which I actually have found the previous dram to be pretty funky. So we'll see what dram number 3 brings. Yeah. All things considered, it's interesting. And if you have all these poured, I encourage you just pick both up. You got Curiosity of Flavors in your left hand and Funky Old Bodega in your right, and just give a quick nose on each of these. I mean, they both, as you can see, if you're watching the stream, you can see they both have the same sort of colored cap on them, so these are both in the same SMWS flavor profile of deep, rich, and dried fruits. This red sort of cap that they do with those. And when you nose them, right away they sort of orbit around the same sun of aroma and flavor. They're quite different, but they have sort of a common ground.
This one does mirror the one we did previously. I find it more amplified though, maybe just because it's younger. And it's got a little bit of like a sulfur note to it.
You find sulfur?
Yeah, like a whiff or suggestion of sulfur, if you will.
A whisper, a secret. I personally don't get sulfur on this, but I'm not super sensitive to sulfur, but it's definitely sharper.
I have a dog.
Sharper.
I have a dog, so I'm sensitive to sulfur.
Oh yeah,
he's an old dog. Yeah.
Definitely sharper. Definitely, there's like with this one, there's almost like a sort of a grainy characteristic to it. Like if you've ever done like a distillery tour, and you go into the like the room that has all the fermenters in it, like there's a little sort of hint of this smell there, just like this sort of grainy sort of
interesting.
Sort of like the husks of grain, sort of.
Yeah, I don't know where I would pick that out. I guess I'd have to visit a distillery.
It's
a fermentorium, if you will.
It's a fermentation type aroma.
Okay.
You know it right away. And you think, you look at a whiskey like this and it's quite dark in color. So you think, okay, it's going to be sherry cask. Mm-hmm. It's going to have all sorts of fruity sherry characteristics. But actually, on the nose,
it's not terribly fruity.
It's not fruity.
No,
it's you'll smell this too if you're in a brewery and you just smell the like fermenting wort. It just has this really sort of
cereal grains. Is that
cereal? Yeah, there's a cereal component. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cereal is a good way to put it.
I eat a lot of Cheerios, so that's experience.
Cheerio sort of. Adriana says corked cork. That's fair. Like to a degree, I sort of understand where you're coming from with that. Like when you smell the cork of a bottle of wine or something like that, like it has that sort of, you get the little bit of, like 5% of the wine and 95% of that sort of like tree bark sort of thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
So someone here has indicated that your mustache is one of the tasting notes.
Oh my god!
Tastes like Dave's mustache.
That's no comment.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna not touch that one.
But no, it's quite nice. But I mean, certainly, if I was betting my own personal money on this, I would, this is a young whiskey because it just has that sort of fermentation type quality to the aroma.
Okay. So if you were just to smell it blind, would that be a good indicator of a young whiskey?
That would be my guess. I mean, full disclosure, tonight it's kind of cheating because, we've got the whiskeys in front of us. I can sort of see through my peripheral vision the numbers that are on here. Okay, I have a rough idea of how old these are. But all of that being said, if it was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I don't even know if that show is still on. Probably not. But Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and how old is this whiskey? Is it young or is it old? And someone passes me this, just based on the aroma. Yeah, this is a young whiskey because it's got that sort of gristy, grainy characteristic on the nose.
It does not taste grainy.
Not that that's good or bad. I mean, decide for yourself. What if you like that quality? That's awesome. If you don't like it, that's fine too. Just know what you like. So that, when you're in the shop and you say, oh, you know what, I like that sort of like gristy, grainy type whiskey, then okay, that's great. That's great for us to know. We can point you to whiskeys that are like that. If you say, oh, I hate that gristy, grainy thing, then we'll point you away from whiskeys like this. But it's just a matter of personal preference. I like it. I like younger whiskeys that are spirit forward, that they're just really brazen. This is quite, I mean, what's the ABV on this? 66.2%. So
It's spicy.
Holy, but it's not like rip your taste buds off spicy.
No, it's not.
But it's there, but it's not overly aggressive. Even if you compare it to the whiskey that's previous, that's almost 15% alcohol less. They're still in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? As far as like on the palate, the intensity of the actual alcohol burn, but
it's like a good alcohol splash for your face,
yeah,
but except for your tongue.
after you shave.
I found, having done a few of these now, that I tend to gravitate more towards the younger whiskeys.
Yeah,
they just seem more robust, more flavorful. Maybe not as nuanced, I would say, like given kind of the second one that we did, but
yeah, well,
they're really, really good. They're sprightly.
Yeah, it's just a matter of difference, and yeah, I'm with you too. Like, even just from an economic standpoint, younger whiskeys I can afford.
That is a great point.
That's awesome. But at the same time, like, I think these younger whiskeys, like SNWS does a really good job of bottling high integrity young whiskeys. So, like you'll see a lot of younger whiskeys from other independent bottlers that are 6 or 7 years old that are kind of like, oh, like it's got some rough edges to it.
Yep.
SNWS, I'll give them credit. The young whiskeys that they pick out are, like everything else that they bottle, are high intensity, high complexity whiskeys. So even our previous whiskey that we know just by the aroma is a much older whiskey. It's still intense. It's still very characterful. But yeah, these young whiskeys, that spirit character, that it hasn't had the chance to oxidize. It hasn't had the chance to infuse into the oak. They can be really sort of dynamic, yeah, in that way. Okay. Makes your mouth tingly. Yes.
Agree. But tingly is good.
It does, yes. Yeah.
It's lovely. It's a really good whiskey.
Okay. So let's go on to dram number 4, which is Stirs Your Soul. Another high ABV one, 64.9%. So feel free to have a drink of water, just sort of clear your palate out a little bit. Atticus North saying, I added water and it mellowed it a lot. Are we talking about the last one, Funky Old Bodega?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Tasting prunes, says Mark. Hey, Mark, how's it going, man? Long time no see. One day we'll get back to Scotland. Maybe next year.
Can I come?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, okay. I'll hold you to that in front of 20 people.
Yeah, that's right. But whiskey number 4. So, this is I'm excited to try this one because this is I believe in the spicy and dry profile.
Where's that one? Spicy and dry.
Spicy and dry, yeah. Which I like a lot, but after some sort of polling with a lot of members, spicy and dry, it seems to be like one of the favorite sort of fan favorite flavor profiles, which is kind of cool. So we don't really get that many of them. Usually there's only one per tasting, if that. But yeah, that's in this profile.
So this has almost like a sour note.
Sour?
On the nose.
Yeah. Can
I? No, I can't.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're going to ask. But
yeah, I'm kind of wrapping my head around this. It's interesting. There's there's a bit of a cereal component to this as well. If we're gonna sort of put it on the flavor wheel somewhere,
Yeah, that's
maybe a little grassiness or something of that nature.
I'm still trying to figure out what that is. I've smelt it before, but I can't.
Someone saying sulfur regarding this whiskey. I can't say that I perceive that, but I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
No, it's mellowing out now. Maybe it's just.
It's like I almost want to say like it's like a floury, sort of like uncooked flour, something like that.
I don't often eat cooked flowers.
Yeah,
So that's new to me. So,
it's got like sort of a raw. There's like a raw, sort of doughy kind of.
like yeasty?
I wouldn't
Or is
say.
that-
I wouldn't say yeasty. I wouldn't say yeasty. I would say it's like a raw dough, sort of like
So we got some folks saying buttery.
buttery. Some people saying buttery. Raisin bran and dewy grass.
Well done, Zara. Well done.
God bless you.
Yeah.
It's, whenever I get my bowl of raisin bran, so just sprinkle a little, But yeah, okay, I get that. I get that though. Like I understand what you mean.
I mean,
It's
I
that
think
sort of
maybe like
rawness, Yeah.
a bran flake.
Bran.
I can
flakes.
kind of see that.
Mhm.
I don't know about the raisins though. No, this one is tough for me.
Yeah, and they're. Sorry, go ahead.
It's tough finding verbiage to really nail down what I'm thinking. Maybe I can taste it and come up with something.
Yeah, we'll give this a go. Got a nice color to it, like pretty dark in color. Compare it to the previous, almost the same in color, quite dark.
Wow, that's interesting.
Really? Oh,
So I'm getting almost like some kind of medley of Asian spices.
yeah, like
Yeah,
a
like a-
5-spice type combination.
Again, I'm a bit of a pleb, so I
To me, kind of tasted like sort of like a melting plastic army man, but that's just me.
let me dive back into that.
It's a guy thing. I don't know. But it's really it's quite unique, quite distinct.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever tasted anything like that before.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's good. But I see where you mean like the kind of like the singed plastic kind of note.
Yeah, it's spicy and dry is the perfect way to put this, I think,
Yeah, definitely.
because where it leaves your palate. I actually like this. There's almost sort of like an effervescence to it. It's light, leaves the palate sort of kind of wanting more. I like that a lot. Better or slash smoother with added water.
Let's find out.
Interesting. You could give that a try. Very alcohol forward, says Atticus. Mark says nutty shortbread. Yeah, the shortbread thing makes sense to me. I'm with you on that. And shortbread, I guess, is that sort of combination between that sort of doughiness, that sort of butteriness, a little bit of sweetness.
I like it more with the water.
Water was a positive thing.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
It made it a bit sweeter.
I'll put this to Laurel because I know we're water siblings. See if you prefer or don't prefer with water. We'll give it a try.
It's too bad we don't get these more often. I'd like to kind of experience
which
these,
more often?
this
Like
this
spicy
flavor
and dry?
profile. Yeah. No, it's something I'd really like to delve into.
It's so unique. I mean, when you compare it to what came before it,
Mhm.
it's so different.
It's radically different.
Yeah.
Like 180 degrees different.
Yeah, it's like Joni Mitchell versus Slayer. It's like,
Now you're talking.
they're both playing guitars, but it's like
One just plays it better.
it's
not
Yeah,
Joni Mitchell.
Joni was great.
No.
I like. We'll get into fisticuffs about that after the tasting's done, but it's that's what's it's so interesting too when how much the water changes the nose. you'd expect, okay, it's going to level off some of the edges on the palate, but on the nose, actually, it brings out a lot, sort of actually intensifies some of that sweet sort of cereal, uncooked flour, sort of doughiness to me, personally, anyway.
There is a flowery note to it, now that you mention it. I totally get that.
I mean, to the extent that if someone put that in front of me and said, what is that? Whiskey almost wouldn't be my first response. Like, it almost kind of makes me think of like a brandy or something like that, like a cognac. Like, it has like a just almost like the cleanness of like a cognac or a brandy.
Okay.
But
could you recommend some distilleries or maybe even some whiskeys in the past that you've had that maybe share some similar veins with this? Like, is there anything that evokes a memory of something that you've had?
I don't remember what I had for breakfast, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. But
fair enough.
I would say this is consistent with what the SMWS bottles as spicy and dry.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that, like for members who like that type of profile, this is going to be right up your alley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there is kind of a spice thing right at the tail end of that too, of the palate. That sort of comes.
Mark says he's getting some Asian spiced meat with
Asian
water.
Spiced meat.
So yeah, I was getting those kind of Asian spices before I added the water. So
yeah. Like, are we talking about sort of like anise, fennel, sort of thing, or what?
I don't know. I couldn't.
Maybe something like that.
I couldn't pick out a
sort
single
of like
spice.
like when you have like sort of like barbecue pork, maybe something a little bit like that. Like, it's on, but it's very, very much on the finish. I dig it. Okay, before we just spend all night picking that one apart, let's proceed to dram number 5, which is a belter of a dram. So they call it. We'll give that one a try.
I think just based off the nose alone, this is the one I'm most excited for.
It's really, it's bold, it's brash, it's very in your face.
Do we want to show people the pours that you gave us? And how...
Look at the heftiness of that pour.
It's delicious.
It
just looks like there's way less in my glass.
But it's very oaky, very, very sort of kind of sawdust, sawmill.
So I smelt a lot of maple syrup when I had my nose in this about 50 minutes ago. Yeah. And now I don't get any of that.
Yeah, and you'll get that sometimes, like as the whiskey's in the glass and it evaporates and that sort of thing. You'll have aroma will change a little bit.
I'm no longer as excited.
I think the other thing too, yeah, fuck this whiskey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
You also sort of like your nose gets a little bit conditioned as you go through each one and spend time with.
That's a good
whiskey.
point.
You're just the way that the sense of smell works. It's before you attend a tasting, your nose is a plain donut. The more you smell, you're bringing molecules onto your olfactory epithelium, and they bind to receptor sites. So it's kind of like a little sort of pinch of sprinkles is put on the donut every time you smell something.
Okay.
That's kind of how the sense of smell works. So, this is really fun because it's sort of like a psychedelic way of enjoying whiskey, because everything you smell is sort of influenced by the thing before it. It's really nice to try each of these whiskeys individually, which I encourage you to do if you have any left in the sample bottles that you have. But yeah, whenever you're nosing something in a serious way and you have 7 whiskeys like this, I mean, each one is going to be influenced by the one before it. But this is very expressive, really sort of punchy.
I do get the sawdust that you had mentioned.
Sawdusty?
Yep.
Someone in the chat says bibimbap. That's interesting.
Lemon chiffon.
Lemon chiffon. What is that? What's a chiffon?
Is it some sort of pastry?
That sounds like that's what that is.
Yeah.
But
The same person who said lemon chiffon also said beam and bap. So I don't know. I don't know what's. Sheila says old leather shoe. Hey, I mean, it might be. Everyone's got a unique microflora on their foot, so you know, there's no no old leather shoe. No two old leather shoes are the same.
It doesn't taste like a leather shoe.
You know, I would drink a leather shoe if it tasted like this.
Out of the shoe?
I'd eat the shoe.
I'd eat the shoe.
For goodness sakes. But yeah, like I can see there's kind of there's sort of a sweaty character with furs and leathers. You know what I mean? Like when you have
like a fur jacket or a
yeah,
fur
like
throw,
there's
or...
sort of like if you've ever smelled like like if you've been somewhere and they're curing fur.
Never,
it has a real sort of animal. No,
no. Is that like a taxidermy thing? Or?
Well, you dispatch an animal and you cure it does like there's sort of like a sort of, and it's a fatty sort of like almost rancid fat sort of.
No, that's news to me.
No, that's news to Craig. Well, it's good. You know, this is why we do the SMWS Outturn.
Well, that's why it's so exciting, because I get to
because we can all
learn about rancid fat.
Discover, you know, yeah. But it's good. No, I mean, you know, we're speaking about it in these terms, but it's
this again is a tough one for me.
Yeah. Like, I would say, you know, if we're gonna, that's nice. If we're gonna characterize the top note of the aroma, some sort of toffee caramel thing is right on top for me. On the palate, it was almost sort of like a charred oak.
It is very oaky.
Yeah, very. It's
me.
It's got an it's there's an oakiness, but it's not sweet. You know, like sometimes you get those really like whiskey number 1 that had that sort of sweet vanilla oakiness. This is not like that. It's got an oaky flavor, but it's not
like a singed or
yeah. It's just like charred oak. I would guess if I were to put money on it, I would maybe guess that this is one of these de-char rechar casks where they scrape out the, you know, after the barrel's had whiskey in it, they scrape it out, rechar it, and then refill it with whiskey. They all tend to have that kind of charred flavor without the sweetness.
Yep.
If I was to guess, you know, I would say maybe this is a de-char rechar cask, but we'll put that to the test when we actually look at what this is. But it's nice. It's got a very sort of yeah, I guess for lack of a better term, just like a sort of charred characteristic to the palate. Anyway, I find chiffon is a cake. Thank you, Mark. Tastes like an old rubber tire. Really? Are people finding that? That's surprising to me.
Did you get the Game of Thrones reference in the chat?
Is there a no? I don't know.
I don't know. Is a Viserion dragon charred over a charcoal grill? Is that Game of Thrones?
I don't read books or watch television. So I don't know.
You just go home and
I sit in the dark. Yeah,
like a mushroom. Go home into a casket.
It is nice though. I like
it. It is very good.
But it's not, you know, I like it. It's interesting because it's got a wide complexity of caramelized oak without being sweet. You know, myself personally, I don't find it palpably sweet.
I don't find
it's actually dry. It's actually sort of leaves the palate sort of clean.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. 65.2%.
So a light one again.
So goodness me. Okay. Let's proceed then in that situation. Let's proceed to Cheeky and Reeky. So we're obviously moving on to our peated sort of segment of the tasting, a couple peated whiskeys. So let's give these a try. I mean, yeah, like right away on the nose.
This smells like oily burlap.
Oh, oily burlap. Yeah.
No, I do know what that smells like, and this smells like oily burlap.
Sort of smells like, when when you come back from the pool, but sort of like the day after, and your like swim shorts are kind of like in your bag, and they've been there for a day.
That's never happened to me.
That's never happened to you?
No.
This is kind of like, as a procrastinator, this is kind of like yeah. Backpack after
Backpack swim
swimming
trunk.
pool, yeah.
It's got this lovely like salty, briny note to it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very maritime.
That's variable, yeah.
Oh.
Salt is sort of like, like when the tide goes out and all the rocks are drying and the salty rocks and all the sea garbage is sort of left on the yeah.
It's very evocative for me. I love the way this smells.
Yeah. Do you have a sort of like sea experience that this takes you to?
Oh no, we used to camp a lot on the west coast of Washington State. So this smells a lot like that.
Yeah, it brings you there.
Maybe my dad just drank a lot of whiskey. I don't know.
This is really just therapy for Craig and I. But yeah, no, I mean I know what you mean. It has that sort of there's a sort of clean characteristic to it, but at the same time it's that sort of like floatsome sort of like
like sea detritus.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
sea detritus. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't wait to taste it. It's
very nice on the nose.
I'm tasting it.
Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
It is.
Very see this is high.
Yeah.
Like when we're talking about low and high, for me this is very high.
This would be the highest peated whiskey I think I've had in recent memory.
Yeah, like it's just very it's the flute. It's just like that sort of very in the upper register of
it's a very like delicate peat.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't heavily peated.
But what's interesting, and I agree with you, but what's interesting is that the peat is very present.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you'll have peated whiskeys that are lightly peated where you sort of have to search to find the peat. This is not like that. Like the peat is there, very much there, but it's as present as it is, it's also very light. Yeah. So, and it's not overly lingering. Doesn't soak into your palate.
No.
It's just kind of like got that very sort of
This might be a more accessible peated whiskey for those who are kind of,
if they don't like peat, yeah.
if they're peat apprehensive.
Perhaps, yeah. But even on the nose, like it's the peat quality on the nose is it's unapologetic. It's not like you have to search for it. It's right on top. Yeah, but it's it's coastal. You know what I mean? It's not like that sort of like soggy, wet iodine Band-Aid. It's like that sort of more coastal type of peat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's also sweet. It's got like a nice, like caramel buttery note kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm. I
really like it.
Eating fresh shellfish with lemon on the half shell.
Mm.
I buy that all day. There is a almost like a citrusy, like a citrusy, lemony, limey sort of quality to it. It is lime. It's like that sort of like what do you call it? That ridiculous cocktail drink with the lime in it. Help me out, Craig. No, it's not
gin and tonic.
No.
I don't drink cocktails.
Anyway, cocktails, whatever. Waste of time. But it's almost like a squeeze of lime. Like it has that sort of limey kind of acidity. And bless our friends, bless our friends at Ask Photo Studios for editing out and adjusting our swallowing and breathing sounds. I'm sure it's quite
and the multiple
or maybe they're not.
Maybe.
And it's just in there. So
Sounds like two dogs drinking out of a bowl.
So
can you edit the swears out? I don't know if that's, we try and keep it PG. No,
they're in there forever. Okay. Oily margaritas. Yes, Zara, thank you. Margarita. Yeah, it's that sort of citrusy, limey sort of thing in a margarita. Yeah.
Maybe I need to drink more margaritas.
I mean, yeah. Limoncello. Wait, who said limoncello? They're logged in as Keg and Cork. Is that
Liam? Is he out in the front?
Oh, that's frightening.
Being
Okay, anyway.
Maybe it's Lionel.
Anyway, cheers. This is really nice. I like this a lot.
It's very good.
And very, very unique for a peated whiskey. Okay, let's go on to dram number 4.
7?
Or, yeah, 7, thank you.
If you want to go back to number 4, that's fine.
My goodness, no.
I like number 4 a lot.
We'll be here all night. So we'll go to dram number 7. Searingly sweet purple smoke. So give that a nose, give that a taste. Oh my god. This is a sentimental smell for me.
Go on.
This is like cedar, like someone drilling through cedar with a hole saw.
No, I totally get that.
Because like
it's not like a salty coastal peat. It's more like a foresty, mulchy, like earthy peat.
Mulchy is the right word, but you know, like it's like when you're drilling through something with a hole saw, there's like a lot of friction. So it's like that burnt wood, oily sort of tarry burnt wood cedar smell. That's what I get out of this. This is I'm loving this.
I wish I had more in my glass.
Can you stop complaining, Craig? God damn it. This is nice though. Oh man. This is like when you walk into the cedar section in Home Depot.
I never leave.
Just so you hang out. It's, you know, like when they keep it outside in the summer months after the rain has hit the cedar section in the parking lot of Home Depot. Good Lord.
That's just mostly what I get though, is wood.
It's very, very woody. Oh.
Wow.
And it comes through, like everything that's on the nose is on the palate.
I wasn't expecting that at all. It is cedar in your mouth.
It's cedar in your mouth.
Wow.
For God's sakes. That's
how is that possible?
There's just a little bit of astringency to that on the palate that I like a lot. That you would expect from maybe from something like new oak.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of that sort of almost tea-like astringency on the palate. That's very nice. And 60.6%. So
it does not drink.
We don't.
Like 60%.
No.
So these previous ones at 66 and 64 were spicy, but this is almost up there at that same level. And it's terrifyingly quote unquote smooth, as much as I hate that word.
I hear you. But yes, I could drink a pint of this.
Should we? Sleep here tonight?
Yeah. But man, that is nice, but very. I mean, if like it or hate it, that sort of cedar quality. That's what I perceive. I don't know how other people are feeling about that, but just like that sort of woody. It's not a woodiness that you usually associate with whiskey. You know what I mean? It's like it's. This is very new to me. This is very exciting.
It's very, very good.
That's delightful. Okay, so we're about an hour in. So I'm going to really sort of quickly go through some of the relevant details of these whiskeys. What I will say before I do that is If you're interested in any of the whiskeys that you tried tonight, shoot us an email at ordering@kegncork.com. And I'm going to be putting these orders together this evening. And I'll shoot you an email and let you know as far as availability is concerned. We've got decent stock of all of these, so it shouldn't be too much of a worry. But yeah, just if you're interested in any of these, just shoot an email so we can register your interest, and I'll let you know before I leave tonight, sort of what's available and etc. So yeah, so shoot that email to ordering@kegncork.com. That being said, let's go real quick through each of these, and I'll let you know what each of these was. So dram number 1, which was Enriched Geranium. Yeah, I'm getting a sign to turn this around, and I will in due course. There it is. So this one, cask number is 39.196. 39.196, which means this was a linkwood. So a little bit different, a little bit unique. I mean, even linkwood is not all that common. You don't see it that often, even from the society. But that's what that is. And this is 13 years old, and done in a refill bourbon hogshead. So that's kind of interesting. It has a little bit more of a kind of vanilla sort of profile, sweeter profile than you would typically expect from a refill cask, but quite nice. 311 bottles produced, and bottle price on that is $154.96. Whiskey number 2, a curiosity of flavors. So this one's a little bit different, a little bit interesting. Sort of as expected from as we were tasting it. This guy is a little bit older, 22 years old, and so this is kind of cool though, because it started in a ex-bourbon hogshead and then finished in a second fill PX hogshead. So that's sort of interesting. So 20 years in bourbon and then two years in the refill PX. So yeah, it's kind of nice for me. It gets that nice sort of balance between that fruity sort of characteristic and the sort of structure and integrity that you get from refill bourbon. Yeah, this guy is $274.96 plus tax. We'll go on to dram number 3, which is Funky Old Bodega. And cask number on that is 63.63, which means that this is a Glentockers, which is a little interesting. Again, something a little bit less common, something you don't see very often. And it's a 7-year-old. So again, sort of as expected, comparing one to the other, we sort of saw some significant differences between these two, and age is definitely one of those things. And this bad boy, cask type on this is a second fill sherry butt. So a refill sherry cask. 602 bottles yielded out of this one. So a bit more than usual, just because it is that refill cask. And bottle price on this is $134.96 plus tax. Someone said, is this a new distillery for SMWS, Glentockers? It is not. I think there's been one or two.
I think they're actually referring to the last whiskey we...
Oh, from the previous?
Yeah, to this guy here.
Oh, to the final whiskey that we tried. Okay, well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so to avoid confusion, whiskey number 4. So cask number, this is actually quite interesting, and I'm loving this. Cask number on whiskey 4 is 35.258, which means that this is one of the sort of veteran favorite whiskeys, Society of Whiskeys in Edmonton, which is a Glen Moray. And this one is 11 years old. So on the younger side. And done in sort of an interesting cask. This is done in a refill Oloroso puncheon. So a puncheon is actually even a little bit larger than a butt. Puncheon is almost 600 liters, so it's quite large. You have a very low ratio of spirit to wood contact. So yeah, so that's sort of interesting. And the bottle price on this guy is $159.96 plus tax. Okay, whiskey number 5, which is a belter of a dram. This is interesting. So this one is actually only 7 years old, which is remarkable because there's a lot of depth and complexity to that, even just on the nose. I would never guess that was 7 years old. The cask number on this is 6.39, which means that this is a Macduff, 7-year-old Macduff. Cask type. So this started its maturation for 5 years in an ex Oloroso cask, and for the remainder of its maturation was put in a first fill PX butt. So I was completely wrong, as I'm sure will surprise you greatly about cask type on this, but very interesting, and quite high in ABV too for its age. And bottle price on this is $135.96 plus tax. Whiskey number 6. So Cheeky Enrique. So this is 14 years old, a 14-year-old single malt in a refill bourbon hogshead. Cask number on this is 135.21, which means that this comes from, I believe, Loch Lomond, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Loch Lomond pot still.
I actually have a question about that.
Oh, hopefully I have the answer. Hit me.
Do they typically not use pot stills, Loch Lomond?
Well, Loch Lomond is sort of interesting because they have pot stills and they also have Lomond stills, which are sort of like almost like a column still. It's basically a pot still, but instead of a neck that goes like so,
mm-hmm.
It has a neck that has plates in it that they adjust the angles of the plates.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's you get a lot more sort of spirit reflux. So some of their spirit is put only through the pot stills, so it's more of like a traditional Scottish single malt.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is only put through the Lomond stills. Some of it is a combination between pot still and Lomond still. And then in addition to that, they also have peated spirit production and unpeated spirit production.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of bandwidth for what they can create. And even within Loch Lomond itself, they have a patent still to produce grain whiskey.
Okay.
So,
wow.
So they do everything. Yeah.
Well, they are a factory. I mean,
Yeah,
they make tens of millions of liters a year.
Yeah. I mean, so Loch Lomond sort of does a little bit of everything, but this one in particular, the 135 distillery code denomination refers to 100% pot still
mm-hmm. and
peated.
Okay.
So that's what this is. And bottle price on this is $157.96 plus tax. And then the final whiskey, which is searingly sweet purple smoke. Which, how delightful was this? This was just, I love this stuff.
It was very good.
I don't mean to talk it up too much because
I do.
But yeah. So this is fully matured in a new oak barrel. So that's something interesting, something a little different. And 7 years old. So intermediate in terms of age maturation. Cask number on this is 144.1. So we got a 0.1 in the tasting tonight. And for those of you who are new to distillery code 144, this is from a distillery now known as High Coast, which is our friends from Sweden, I believe. Is that
They're
right?
Swedish.
Yeah. From Sweden. So High Coast, formerly known as Box, but I guess they had to change their name because some other miscreant whiskey company had Box in the name. I'm not sure which company did, but anyhow, they're now known as High Coast, and that's the one. It's 7 years old, fully matured in a new oak barrel, and bottle price on that is $234.96 plus tax. So there you have it. So that's the March 2021 SMWS Outturn. So I hope you we're getting production notes to turn these bottles subtly. So hopefully you can see all those. But thank you so much for joining us and for tasting along. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I want to say perhaps I'll stick around for a little bit if anyone has any questions. But yeah, if you liked any of these whiskeys, please send an email to ordering@kegncork.com, and yeah, we'll do our best to allocate these whiskeys to those who have asked for them, and I shall let you know quantities wise if we can satisfy your order. So really good outturn, I thought.
Did you have a favorite?
Yeah, I mean, that might be something worth putting to you guys in the chat too. If you had a favorite. For me personally, a lot of these, I like these for sort of different reasons. I kind of, just for uniqueness, kind of liked whiskey number 4 and whiskey number 7 from just like a pure unique standpoint. I don't know. How did you feel, Greg?
Typically for me, there's a clear-cut winner, and this week was quite the opposite.
There's so much of everything.
Well, just because
it's a what do you call it? Cornucopia of flavors.
Well, there's just things I haven't tasted before.
Yeah.
So number 4, as you pointed out, so that was entirely unique for me, a brand new profile. I had a really tough time nailing it down.
Yeah.
I'd love to try and get more of that. I know we've got a few in that kind of flavor profile here at the store.
Yeah.
So I'll be trying those and doing better to kind of educate myself. The High Coast for sure was delicious. The Funky Bodega, loved it. Just it's a bright, it's young.
There's nothing that I didn't like. Yeah, like honestly,
So,
yeah.
I don't know if I could nail down one right now. I have to do another outturn just to myself.
We'll start again.
Yeah.
We'll start it off again. But that being said, and I agree with you, Craig. I think everything this evening was very good, and I don't say that every month. Everything here was really, really fabulous, and for completely different reasons for everything.
I'm happy with any one of these.
Yeah,
if I'm honest.
Yeah. So, so I guess with that, we'll say thank you for being here, for taking part in the stream, and very much thank you to Ask Photo Studios for helping us out with the technological aspect of this and sort of guiding us through. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the whiskeys, and we'll see you again real soon. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
We're done.
Are we sure? We can start swearing again?
Okay.